Hello, Marengo Mike here, bringing you another best of COS Indiana Live broadcast. So settle back and enjoy. We'll see you all back here again next week.
I get discouraged, for sure, and I will quit fighting at some point. And that point is when the first shovel of dirt hits the top of my box 6 feet down.
Hello and welcome to COS Indiana Live as we bring you Roundtable. The Roundtable segment is presented here every fourth Monday of the month at 7 p.m. We'll be focusing on education and discussion of the topics and challenges we all face as we use the Constitution to save the Constitution. Join us now as we bring you COS Indiana Roundtable with our MC, John Ackerman.
And welcome to COS Indiana Roundtable. I'm your host, John Ackerman. This is broadcast number 213 of Indiana Live, COS Indiana Live, and welcome. This month's topic is the dangers of socialism. And I want to get right into it, so let's bring the panel on right up front. First, we have our virtual program coordinator, Dale Parrish. Welcome back to the Roundtable, Dale.
Hello, John. Nice to be with you tonight.
Good to see you.
Haven't seen you in such a long time.
It's been forever, man, like a month. And Brett Sturley. Brett is the state director of COS Missouri. Welcome, Brett. Glad to have you here tonight.
John, I was forced to invite him to come on here tonight. I just want you to know that.
You were forced, huh?
No,
okay.
No, let's not get it nasty. Make it nasty just from the get go here.
What was
John,
the threat?
John, it's great. It's great seeing you, and Dale. Yeah, you're over there.
I just every time I'm on with Brett, it's just too tempting to stir up a little trouble with him. So I'm sorry. I digressed, I guess.
Too much merrymaking going on over there.
Yep.
And from back home in Indiana, our state communications coordinator, Ken Kashuba. Ken, unmute yourself and say hi to the audience.
Thanks, John. I had to keep it muted. It's not even Halloween, and we've got the witch's brew started up here already.
Oh, mercy me. Yeah, we're getting ready for October, aren't we?
Yeah, we sure are.
Yeah.
Well, John, we got another panelist, but I don't know if he's got his volume working. Do you know yet?
No, I don't know. Let's try. Can we bring him on and see? Charlie, he's still working on it. I see his feed is live. Hey, Charlie, can you hear us? Well,
I don't know. Can you hear me?
We hear you, Charlie, loud and clear.
Okay. I can't hear you, so I'm going to try a little jerry-rigging here.
Okay. While Charlie works on that, let me tell you that he is our district captain in District 28 in Indiana. So this is our panel. We've got 5 folks here tonight for the panel, and 4 are able to participate, and we hope that Charlie's able to hear us and speak to us before too much time goes on. I already told you the topic for tonight. It's the dangers of socialism.
I'll keep working on this.
Okay, Charlie, thank you. We're going to talk about the dangers of socialism. Now, socialism, it sounds good. It's a nice sounding word. I mean, who doesn't want to be social? So perhaps its very name has attracted a lot of young people to it. Yeah, I want to be social. Don't you? Don't you want to be social? But what does socialism really mean? If we look in the dictionary, we'll see that it's defined as the government ownership of the means of production. I've also seen an understanding of socialism as the necessary step between capitalism and communism. You move from capitalism to socialism to communism. But I want to ask each member of the panel, what does socialism mean to you? And I want to go around the table and ask each member of the panel to chime in on how you see socialism. And let's just start with Brett. Brett, give us your answer to that.
Well, yeah, this is a tough one. You gave the textbook definition, and in theory, everything looks nice and clean. Everybody, it's equal distribution of resources across the whole entire society. Everybody has what they need. So it really sounds good, but there's a little bit of it loses a little bit once you start putting into action and actually implementing it. So to me, and I thought about some different ways to say this, but I'm just going to kind of be blunt. I'm like, socialism to me, it means the end of our constitutional republic. I mean, socialism, if you look at its history, it means destruction and death.
Mm-hmm.
Socialism means the end of everything that's good, true, and beautiful. A socialist form of government is completely incompatible with our Constitution. It rejects God. It rejects natural law. A socialist states cannot ever have limited government because the state is always superior to a creator God. That's one thing that's very unique in our constitutional system. And as you mentioned, socialism, eventually communism, and then into Marxism will always lead to totalitarian states because human behavior does not follow the textbook model. And so the answer to that is it's always blamed on the population that is not behaving correctly. And that's why socialism isn't working correctly. So that means more and more top-down authoritarian government from the central government. And to me, socialism, communism, Marxism is just pure evil.
Wow, that's a strong, powerful answer to the question. Thank you, Brett. Dale, what's your thought?
What I found is that there are many forms of socialism, but I think from what I have found that the central theme is the centralized control of everything, including everything. I mean, media, schools, education, production, property. Everything is centralized, central ownership, of course, that being the government, of everything for the purpose of, I don't know, fairness, social equity, whatever you want to call it. So basically the theme, though, is a centralized control of everything.
Yeah, supposedly for the purpose of fairness.
Yes.
It's interesting to me that in every socialist government we've ever seen, the rich get richer. You have oligarchs. You have the ruling party, wealthy and in control. And I think the real purpose is for power and riches and control. But they say it's for fairness and equity. Equity is a nasty word.
And like what Brett said, that's totally opposite of what our Constitution's all about, of what our country is all about. And what totally opposite, we'll get into this shortly, but totally opposite of what Convention of States is all about.
Okay, don't let the cat out of the bag too
soon. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay, well, I know that Charlie's working hard to get back in, and he's working on his technology. And if he can get here, we'll see him and hear from him. But before we go that way, I just want to give a nod towards Ken. Ken is watching the comment board. So if you're viewing tonight and you have a comment or question, feel free to post it. If you're watching live on Facebook or YouTube, Ken will watch those and get many of them up on the screen as he can. Ken, it's a little bit early. We're less than 10 minutes into the roundtable, but do you have anything from the viewing public, or do you have anything from yourself about what socialism means to you?
Well, I think Brett certainly covered a lot of bases in his assessment there, and I agree with everything that both him and Dale said. I think simply put, I mean, the simplest explanation I have from it is you give up freedom for control, to be controlled by the government. Basically, the more socialism that there is, the more freedoms we lose. So basically, it's giving up freedom to be taken care of by the government. And then it always sounds so good, but to be taken care of. But we do have one comment. I'll go ahead and throw that up here.
All right.
Susan Gervais is on tonight, and she said, when everyone owns everything equally, there is no incentive to create, work hard, or develop your own skills.
Absolutely true.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you, Susan. Appreciate your interest and your watching and commenting. Yes, Dale.
Well, and I think that's one of the objectives of socialism. The central control will do all the creation and all the work and everything. So that's exactly what she said is exactly what will happen, and I think that's the intention of it, really.
Yeah.
One.
And sociologically speaking, if you can beat the people down to where they stop feeling free and they stop inventing and creating, they're easier to control, and there's a lower possibility of an uprising. And so it's an insidious thing. Yes, Brett.
And that's exactly right. And Susan's exactly right. And that's one of the reasons why, to me, the main reason why socialism does not work, because that is contrary to human behavior. Human nature is to use our God-given ability, use our talents, and be incentivized to improve our lives. And by improving our lives, we improve our community. Everybody, using their talents and abilities to their highest and best use, really is kind of like the rising tide floats all boats. It improves society in general. And so that's just a natural human ambition. And that is something that socialism just completely represses.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, we've beat this one pretty good. Thanks, guys. Let's move on to the second question. And taking a look at goals, what is the ultimate goal of socialism? What does socialism really want as an end goal? And this time I'll just start with Dale, because I started with Brett last time.
Well, I think the ultimate goal, from what I have found, is communism. That's the ultimate goal. Marxism, communism, all these isms are so much alike. But so I'm just gonna go with communism right now, John. And based on my research, what I've done on communism, we are getting very close to it. There are a lot of factors in our society and economy that are very, very close to being communistic. So
okay,
we're on our way, I think.
And on maybe that's a very serious thing, but maybe on the lighter side, I remember some years ago hearing a big time preacher in my religious denomination in the middle of a sermon in front of thousands of people in a big convention say there are many isms that ought to be wasms. and that has stuck with me for a long, long time. And communism ought to be a wasm. It ought to be relegated to the dustbin of history, put it in the past. Brett, what would you add to that on the ultimate goal of socialism?
No, I think that's right. And John, as you pointed out before, it's power and control. In every command and control economy that you look at, there is no middle class, and that's a Marxist term in itself right there.
Yeah. But
there are the well-connected oligarchs that you pointed out that control everything. And then there's everybody else that is left to, live in squalor. Mm-hmm. And I think if you follow the Great Reset and the Great Resetters at places like the World Health Organization, they give you a vision. They tell you what their vision is. It's like, you will own nothing. You will eat the bugs. That's Klaus Schwab has said that. and you'll live in government-owned housing. You won't have any mobility beyond public transportation. You'll have an allowance from the government through guaranteed basic income, and ultimately, I think the ultimate goal is world depopulation. If you look their climate agenda, the carbon is the biggest bane on Mother Earth. And what are the biggest what are the most ubiquitous carbon based life forms or on Earth? Well, it's people. And I think that this is it's to me it gets to that point in a one world government, not the one in Washington D.C., but one like in Davos, Switzerland. It's I just really think that we're dealing with forces that really only a political and spiritual rebirth can reverse.
Yeah. Yep. I think you got it there. Ken, do you have anything for us, either from yourself
Yeah,
or
we've got
from?
a couple of comments I'm going to go ahead and throw up. It might take us a little bit off track, but let's go ahead and put them up. Diane Jones says there will always be people who seek to tyrannize others. Our form of government is the best safeguard.
That's great. Thank you, Diane. Great reminder.
And then I've got one that comes from our state director. It's a little bit more thought provoking. I'll go ahead and put this one up. Lenin and Stalin are responsible for 67 million dead. Why?
Let's talk about that for a minute. And I think if you add Chairman Mao Zedong from China, the number gets up to over 100 million. It's the deadliest political philosophy that's ever been invented. Why so many dead? Let's pause right there and talk about that for a minute. Brett, do you have a thought?
Well, I think it's a socialism by eliminating the incentive for people to excel and to improve productivity and have technological advancements. You burn through our finite resources a lot faster.
Yeah.
And so the only way to increase the resources is to increase the freedom to the people, which that's not the answer in socialism or communism or Marxism. So the only thing that you can do is you can decrease the number of people that actually have access to resources. And so this is where you end up with gulags, and you end up with work camps and forced labor that really just shorten the life expectancy of people. And you mentioned Chairman Mao. A lot of this comes out of mass starvation because there's just simply not the resources and the food production. There's no incentive for the population of that country to produce enough food for them.
I'm going to bring you up, and I'm going to put you on
speakerphone. And I know that that happened in Ukraine during the ascendancy of the Soviet Union. Millions of Ukrainians died of starvation. And I know that in the background here, Dale's been doing a workaround with Charlie, where Charlie can listen via Dale's speakerphone, and he can hear us. And you're going to bring him back on now, Dale?
I'm sorry, I should have muted myself. Yes, I'm going to bring him on. We're going to try something here. Okay.
Yeah, let's see. 21st century technology at work. Okay, Charlie.
You just updated to Windows 11 over here at this place, so kind of messed things up.
Okay, well, it's pretty good. We're hearing you. We hear you twice, but it's not bad. I can understand things. And so, Charlie, I don't know what you've picked up, but we've gone around on our first couple of questions now.
Yeah.
What does socialism mean to you, and what's the ultimate goal of socialism? So I want to move on to our third question, and that is, what stake does COS have in this? Why is this a concern of convention of states? Okay. And Charlie, since you've been forced out of the conversation, I'm going to force you in very first here. Tell us your take on why convention of states is even concerned about socialism. What do you think, Charlie?
My take on that would be that a lot of the people that we're looking at trying to get involved with COS, we typically gravitate towards the conservative people. I mean, those are the people that tend to align themselves with what our cause is. And unfortunately, the younger generations tend to think that socialism is the best thing since sliced bread, but they don't really understand about it. And if we don't know how to deal with this topic, we can't address it with the younger generations and have meaningful conversations, because this goes directly against what we're trying to do. Article 5 is about saying, let's take the power and put it back with the states. And socialism is saying, oh, the people don't need the power, we can take care of it for you. So if we don't get that message across, then we've lost everything with anybody who thinks socialism is the way to go.
Okay, that's very, very good, very helpful. You laid a real good foundation there for us, Charlie. Thank you. Dale, you got a comment?
Yeah, I think what I want to say is, of course, Convention of States, one of our main pillars of our resolution is to restrain. I'm going to turn Charlie off there for a while here. Is to restrain government overreach, and of course, socialism is the ultimate government overreach. So it's a 180 opposite of what one of our main goals in holding a Convention of States.
Okay. It is the epitome of government overreach. And so that's one of the three kinds of amendments that we are pushing for to see to our United States Constitution. Okay, Brett, I see you nodding over there, and I want to know what can you contribute to this question?
Well, those are all great points, and I think we at Convention of States, we love liberty, and liberty cannot exist under a socialist rule. And our aspirational goal, our aspirational mission of Convention of States is to teach people to be self-governing citizens. Mm-hmm. And self-governance is non-existent under a socialist form of government. And we also believe in the right to fight, believe in and fight for to restore the Constitution. And the socialistic form of government is just completely incompatible with our U.S. Constitution. And I had a conversation a couple years back with Mark Meckler, COS co-founder Mark Meckler, and COS board member Tim Dunn, and I asked him what his biggest surprise was in his Convention of States journey, and he said that he always thought the Convention of States was the best way to bring about a political renewal, but he said, I didn't expect it would be the path to a spiritual renewal as well. So I think that's really where Convention of States is looking to make that, both restore the Constitution, restore political balance, the civil society, and lead to a spiritual renewal as well.
Okay, Ken.
Well, on that topic that Brett was just speaking about, we have a comment from Susan again. She says that when government diminishes the importance of family and religion, young people depend on the government, thereby believing the government is the answer to their needs.
Susan, you're exactly right. And to tie that in with what Brett was just saying, in a socialist system, the government becomes God with a small g, not a capital G. And that's, I think, part of why communism is also atheistic, because the state has to become the deity. And so it's a very dangerous road to go down. And I think you guys have given some powerful answers, some good reasons why Convention of States is concerned about socialism. And another thought that I had was that another one of the amendments that we want to see is fiscal restraint. And if we can lower federal spending, it's a move away from socialistic control of everything. Government spending, as we know, has just exploded. And the debt and deficit have exploded in the last few years. And we've got to turn that around. And it seems like Congress does not have the will to say no. And so we've got to do something to force fiscal restraint upon the federal government. Any final thoughts on this before we go to our break? Anybody?
I think you summed it up very well, John.
Okay. Charlie, are you doing all right with us now?
Charlie, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay. We've done.
I can hear you off of YouTube, so I'm hearing a little bit of the delay.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's good enough because it gets the job done. Well, let's take a short break now, and we're going to hear Marengo Mike's latest and greatest speech. He's going to talk to us about fear.
Welcome to another Marengo Mike's Corner. Fear. By now, we've all seen a pattern to its usage. Fear of losing your health, your job, your future. If Americans didn't fear, there would be no business closures, school closures, no fear of getting some good old sunshine and fresh air. It's the same fear that will be used to convince you of the need to let government handle all the necessaries of your life, usurping more and more power while eroding more and more freedom, all in the name of keeping you safe, taking the smaller steps of socialism down the path to the eventual platform known as communism. Warnings have been issued from plenty of those who have traveled that road in other countries and speak to its horrors. That's how socialism, communism, collectivism comes, a cringe of fear at a time.
Wow, a timely talk from Marengo Mike, and it fits right in with our topic, the dangers of socialism. Well, Charlie, once again, since you've had technology against you, I'm going to give you first crack at our next question, which is to take a look at how is socialism infiltrating American society. We already see it starting to happen here. So, Charlie, take it, would you please?
Okay. Again, I would say that it's coming in with the younger generation, and I think with the younger generation is coming in through our educational system, and people trying to push it on them that the government can do things. Our welfare system is being something that people are relying on a lot more than something that that people aren't. It's not something that's helping prop people up so that way they can do things on their own and trying to get them back on their feet. It's one of those things that's making people not want to be self-sufficient. And I think by doing things that make people not want to be self-sufficient, they're just relying on the government, or the government's making it so they as soon as people start to get self-sufficient, the floor drops out from underneath them and they can't make it anymore. So I think there's that, plus the educational system isn't really teaching people how to be self-sufficient. So I think teaching people how to make money. I mean, go to the drive-through at McDonald's, it comes to $4.25, give them $5 and a quarter, and It's like, I don't know how to do that. You gave me too much. It's like you take $5.25 and you give me back $1 and change.
I've had that exact thing happen to me, not at McDonald's, but at various cash transactions. Okay, Dale?
Yeah, John. If you look at the Communist Manifesto, the Communism Manifesto, you can already see many areas where socialism / communism is infiltrating our society. Our education system has been mentioned, the media, the negativism about parenting, well, I could go on the churches, so many areas where, not to mention the degrading of the Constitution, the degrading of our founding. There's just so many areas where you can see, I think, where you can see socialism / communism infiltrating into our society, and it's presenting an ever challenge to offset that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
okay, let me turn to Brett and ask what do you have to add to this, the infiltration?
Well, I think those are Charlie and Dale both had great points there, and I think we actually have a real time example right now happening in Chicago, and this seems to end up being a self-fulfilling prophecy. The crime rate in Chicago is just so astronomical, and with these smash and grab crimes, this goes to a lot of different states, Oregon, California. They don't even, you do a smash and grab crime. If you don't steal over $1,000, they don't even go after you and prosecute you. So it's just, I mean, it's literally a license to steal. But there's an article in the Daily Wire by Amanda Prestigiacomo on Saturday, and it talks about how the Democrat mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, is upset because Walmart's and Whole Foods and all these big grocery store chains have been moving out of South Chicago and West Chicago, and they've been moving out because of violence. Mm-hmm. And it is forming what they term a food desert, that there's so many people that don't have access to groceries. And now what they're doing, just to kind of put this as an example, kind of in context, from the story, it says Walmart announced the closure of 4 stores in Chicago's South and West Side neighborhoods back in April. So it was due to a lack of profitability going back 17 years when the company first opened in Chicago. So these stores lose tens of millions of dollars a year, and their annual losses have nearly doubled in just the last 5 years. Well, what's happened in the last 5 years? We had the BLM riots. We've had all this, George Soros prosecutors and all these different, county justice, quote unquote, justice systems, that they're refusing to prosecute crime. And so what Mayor Brandon Johnson's solution is to this is to have a government-run grocery store and open those up throughout Chicago, to where I'm sure that sounds like it's really super efficient, but what they're doing is they're going to be subjected to the same crime as the Walmart stores and Whole Food stores. Only now, whenever that happens, the taxpayer is going to be paying both sides of it, both to open up the store and to stock the store, and they're going to be on the hook for what is stolen from the store. So this is just another brilliant idea of the central planners, and Ronald Reagan was right. The more the plans fail, the more the planners plan. And that's exactly what you're seeing here. And this is how we get down to that road. And again, people will be blamed for this, but they won't actually prosecute the behavior of the people. They'll say, well, people just aren't being kind and they're not being fair. So we need to open up more stores. And so this is just going to be total disaster, and you can see it coming right down the track.
Yep. And you can see it go down the tubes too. Okay, Ken.
Yes, we've got a number of comments, which I'll kind of preface these with a little more of a deeper look under the cover, so to speak. Obviously, what we've talked about here, or both Charlie and Brett have brought up, and Dale, are the things that are pretty obvious and should be obvious to everybody: the crime, and etc. Some of our viewers are commenting a little bit more on the spiritual side. So I want to bring up a couple comments that I think people may have heard about, may not be fully aware about, but certainly the technology is available. So I'm going to bring it up because I think the viewers are obviously commenting about it, and I think the panel can probably fill in a little bit on it. Let me start off first with Certain Elf, and he says that they already have microchips that can be implanted. So obviously we're talking about things that will make our life easier. I've seen commercials on this already, or talk shows and news programs talking about this already, where the object is, wave your hand. You don't have to bring your debit or credit card with you. You leave your wallet at home. Just wave your hand and you'll pay for your food that way or whatever. The microchips are one thing that's obviously already available. And another gentleman by the name of Wesley Curry. Now, he's been on here quite a bit here, labeling I can't get into every one of his comments at this point. He's got a whole list, but he's on the same train, talking about the fact that this is something that is part prophecy and part of socialism, whereby they relate this with the mark of the beast. So we're talking about the evil side here of socialism, which is at the heart. And I know we've been talking a lot about the different things that are obvious to us, or the pitfalls of socialism and how it's affected, and how COS is involved in all that. But at the root of it, again, comes back down to an evil, subliminal message that some of these people are talking about here online and our commenters. So I've got a few others that I'll bring up really quick, and then we'll let you talk about it. Susan talks about wokeism is just another form of the basic pattern of communism, recruiting the young to rebel against what their parents stand for. So again, it comes to an evil heart, I think, is really where that falls in. So I'll stop there and let the panel get involved.
Okay, and Dale is going to save the day here.
Well, Susan's comment is almost straight from the Communism Manifesto, with regard to opposing what the parents stand for, and almost straight out of the Communism Manifesto.
Okay.
You must be reading the same thing I am.
Separate children from their parents, and they become dependent on the state.
That's right.
Insidious. Okay, any other comments on that? Yes, Brett.
Yeah, John. I think these comments are right on, and it does go back to the point that we do need both a political and a spiritual rebirth in America, and because to the microchip point. And this does cut across all parts of society. To the microchip point, I think it was going back to the World Health Organization again. Yuval Harari, who was Klaus Schwab's right hand man, he was talking about having pills when you take medication, that there would actually be some type of a chip in the pill that would make sure that when you're taking your medicine, make sure that you did take your medicine, how much you took, and just be able to monitor people like that. I mean, and that's incredibly scary. It also goes to, if you've studied anything about central bank digital currency, that is, again, that's another whole show right there. But if you want to know how that would work, just ask the Canadian Freedom Truckers, who set up when they were there going across Canada to Ontario to petition their government. They had, I think it was somewhere like around $14 million, I believe, is what they had gotten in a GoFundMe campaign. And the Canadian government, it was all digital, of course, And the Canadian government said, well, you know what, we don't approve of this use of those funds, so we're going to take them and we're going to divert them to charities that we approve of. So just like Thanos snapping his fingers, that money's gone. And so that's exactly what central bank digital currency is, and that's why it's just a horrible idea, because they'll be able to restrict how much of our resources, our private property that we have access to, also what we can spend it on, and they'll be able to monitor those patterns. So just horrible, evil, demonic stuff.
Indeed. Yes, Dale.
John, I want to pose something to you, since I know you've been a former pastor. So one of the, actually a couple of the items in the Communist Manifesto has to do with churches. And I just wondered what your opinion was on this. One of the items in the manifesto is to infiltrate churches and replace religion with social religion, discredit the Bible, emphasize the need for intellectual maturity, eliminate prayer or any phase of religious expression in schools. We know that's happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
And stating that it violates the principle of separation of church and state, which it has nothing to do with. But anyway, what do you think about those? Do you see that happening?
Dale, do you not know that I'm the one who asks the questions on this roundtable? Well, actually, those are good questions, and I'm glad to respond to them. Yes, I have a theology degree, a Master of Divinity degree from an accredited seminary, and I was a pastor and a professor of pastoral ministries for a total of about 40 years until I retired. And these things that you just mentioned out of the Communist Manifesto are right at the heart of socialism and communism. And it gets back to something I mentioned a few moments ago about eliminating the whole concept of God, higher power, spiritual reality, so that people become totally dependent on the state. They don't want people to worship or serve anything other than the state, the state over everything. And so the way you do that is you break up churches, you ban the Bible, you tell people that it's a book of myths and you need to grow up intellectually and stop believing all these myths and fables, and put your trust in us, because we've got your best interest at heart and we're going to take good care of you. And that may work for a few people for a short period of time, but I think it runs counter to the human spirit. I believe we are created in the image of and likeness of God. And I agree with the saint who said there is within each of us a God-shaped emptiness, and we are meaningless until we find our meaning in thee, and so that's part of the way we're created. And for the government to try to stymie that or stop it is a direct attack on our personhood. And, that's right at the heart of socialism. So thanks for giving me a chance to sermonize a little bit here.
Well, I thought we'd give you a chance to get on the soapbox here.
Yeah, well, you did. Okay. Well, I want us to take a brief look, just a couple minutes worth of look at our next question. And that is, if socialism goes unchecked, if we allow it to continue to grow, how will life be different for us here in this country and around the world if socialism goes unchecked? And as I did before, I want to give Charlie first crack at this, since he's had a little technical difficulty. Get your 2 cents in worth, Charlie, and then the others can chime in, okay?
Okay. One thing I think about this is that, if socialism does go unchecked, the people will lose the power, and the government gains all the power. And I think eventually the Constitution, as it's written now, will be overturned, and we'll get in a state of ultimate tyranny, and people's individual rights, voting. The government won't see need for that. They say, we know what's best for you. You don't need to tell us who needs to be in charge of you, because we know that who the best people are already. So, I mean, all the reasons why the rest of the world wants to come to the U.S., I think practically all those are going to be gone. And the farther things go unchecked, the harder exponentially it will be to try to get out of that hole, until possibly it gets to a point where, only another complete revolution and rebuild may be the only solution.
It's a pretty bleak scenario, but I think pretty accurate. Thank you, Charlie. Okay, Dale, do you have anything to add to that?
Not much. Not much. I think we're already seeing some of it, and and I think if we don't fight back against it, we're going to continue to see more and more freedom disappear.
Okay.
Yeah.
The storm clouds are on the horizon.
Yeah.
Brett, anything else on that one?
Well, I'm not exactly going to be a ray of sunshine on this question here either. So, I mean, because it is serious. It is serious. It kind of referred back to my, previous comments. It's famine, pestilence, death, destruction, and just a total assault and a disappearing of everything that's good, true, and beautiful. I mean, that's the way it is. Yep.
The end of life as we know it. Okay, Ken.
Well, yeah. How will life be different if socialism goes unchecked? I think we've already caught a glimpse of of what that would look like when you're being told what kind of car to drive. What eventually the way it goes as far as your money is concerned, they'll be telling you what you can and can't eat. So I think we're seeing glimpses of this already, where our resources are being shut down and being forced to basically be servants to other countries is what we're being forced to do now. At this point, our dependency on China and things that come from the foreign governments that quite frankly we've seen how we can be self-sufficient, and at this point we've already gotten to the point where we're seeing what life would look like, or how life would be different if this continues.
Okay, well, it's a pretty dark picture. Yeah, Brett.
I was just going to say something real quick. Ken's assessment was actually the most uplifting answer to this question, which tells you just how bad this path at the ultimate end of this path.
I tried, Brett. I tried.
Okay. Yeah, and we have to laugh because the alternative is so terrible. So it's time to part the clouds and let the sun shine in. My final question to the panel is: what can our viewers do about socialism? What can be done about it? Dale, you're going to be first.
This is my pat answer to every broadcast, John, about what can we do. And what we can do is we can fight to hold a convention of states for the purpose of proposing amendments that would curtail the overreach of our government and that could prevent this from happening in our society. So it's up to us. It's up to the people, we the people, and it always has been up to we the people. But it's up to us, hold the Convention of States, propose amendments to the Constitution to fight this very movement.
Okay, that's the big one.
Yep.
What else could our viewers do? Brett, you want to give it a shot?
Yeah, I think that's a great answer there, Dale. I think pursue absolute truth. What we're seeing now in society is just a total, not an argument about what the truth is. It's a total rejection of truth. So pursue absolute truth. That only comes through faith in God and finding God. Behave as a self-governing citizen. Know who your local government officials are. Go to your city council and school board meetings. Speak out when they lie to you. I guarantee you there's somebody else there in the audience that knows something's wrong, but they're afraid to say anything. So, maybe you getting up and saying something might give them the impetus to do the same. Have a personal relationship with your state and your state senator and your state representative. Make sure you have a free and open dialogue. I mean, the firewall is in the states, and that's why we volunteer for the Convention of States Action, is because we understand that our state legislators are the firewall. The answer is not going to be in Washington, D.C., where the problems are created. And that's why the Convention of States is focused at the state level, and it's time to stop the tail from wagging the dog. Right. And I tell our team that if you have an hour a day, an hour a week, an hour a month, or an hour a year, there's something can be done with that time to restore the Constitution and to preserve liberty for future generations. And we probably have lots of people on here that have maybe signed our petition at Convention of States Action, and that's great. That's greatly appreciated, but it's not enough. We have about 5.5 million supporters nationwide now. If those 5.5 million supporters were actively volunteering on their state teams, I guarantee you that we'd be well within the reach of our 34th state to hold the first of many Convention of States meetings. We need to get to 35 million active supporters, and those people are out there, and that's what it's going to take to restore our constitutional republic. Okay, Ken has something.
Yeah, I just want to tailgate on the back of what Brett was saying, and as far as getting involvement, is first of all, we can't fear. We can't be in fear. We can't be fear censorship. We can't fear what is being threatened to people who have a different viewpoint. And to piggyback onto what both him and Dale were talking about is talk to your neighbors. Get out and organize a block walking event. Take a trip around your block. Talk to your neighbors. Let them know what's going on. Some people are totally clueless. Other people you'll find have the same opinion, just don't want to voice it. And when they see people gathering together and having that opinion and that voice that wants to get our country back on track, I think that's some things that our viewers can do.
Okay, this is all really good and powerful stuff. Charlie, I'm going to give you the last word this time.
Okay. Well, thanks. I think one thing that we have right now, even though we have yet to get the Convention of States, something that we already do, but I think a lot of us take it all for granted, is simply voting. We let our people, our representatives, know it's important to us. But if they don't know that our opinions are important, then they're just going to keep on doing what they want. So we need to go tell them, say, this is important to us. And if they don't do something about it, show them that at the polls that it's like, okay, you're not standing for the people. We want you out of here. We don't want people that are just going to sit there and do what makes them happy, that are going to just work for themselves. And people of all ages can go and help out. They can do these things, even if you're not of voting age. And I think, like has been said many other times, is what's been socialism's and the liberals' big way to tear things down is by aiming at the family.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we are able to do things to build the families back up, get involved in church activities, do things that will build things up at the community level, then it will eventually build things up at all the way up to the governments. So.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. And I want to especially thank Charlie for being so diligent in getting connected to us tonight. He just had some unusual technological challenges, but you stuck with it. We appreciate your input, Charlie, very much. I want to thank the whole panel. You've done a great job with a very difficult topic. Well, that brings us to the end of this month's roundtable. Before I say goodbye, I want to give you our email address. If you have any questions about Convention of States, you can send them to us at raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. That's raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. Be sure to tune in next Monday, October the 2nd at 7 p.m. Eastern for our next COS Indiana Live, which will feature interviews with 3 retired FBI agents, 3 former G-men. I can't wait to hear what they have to say next Monday night. And our next roundtable will be on the 4th Monday of October. That will be October the 23rd at 7 p.m. Eastern. And to close us out, here's a message from our National COS President, Mark Meckler. It's called The Day I'll Quit Fighting.
I struggle to empathize with people who would give up. It doesn't make sense to me. Sam Adams said, for those of you who prefer safety and security over liberty, over the animating fight for liberty, I hope that you enjoy licking the hands that feed you. May your chains rest lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that you are our countrymen. Like, do you understand that your kids and you are sentencing your kids and your grandkids and your friends' kids and your neighbors' kids to a lifetime of slavery and servitude, literally, of fear, of living in the darkness? But never, ever, never, never, never give up. George Washington lost the majority of his battles that he fought in the American Revolution. If you read his writings, if you read the letters where he was writing to Congress asking for money and troops, he was saying, we're losing. I don't have the troops I need. I don't have the supplies I need. Did he quit? What about the guys on the beach at Normandy? Like, what did they do? Did they just quit? Oh, there's, a lot of guys are dying around me. It's really bad. It looks really dismal. Those cliffs are huge. Machine gun fire raining down on us. And it's too hard. We should just quit. Thank God those people didn't quit. If they had, where would we be? I get discouraged, for sure. And I will quit fighting at some point. And that point is when the first shovel of dirt hits the top of my box 6 feet down.